Hello, Kelly.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
A happy 4th of July to you. Tomorrow's 4th of July.
That's right. We're coming up on Independence Day. We just had Canada Day and Independence Day.
Do you know how old America is this year?
258 years?
No. 249.
249. Okay.
Which means next year is the big 250.
Oh, yeah. 2026, 1776.
Yeah, 1776 is the year that we go with.
Yeah.
When we were kids, in 1976, we 6-7 years old.
Yeah.
And it was the
Bicentennial.
American Bicentennial. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the American Bicentennial, because if you weren't alive in 1976, you missed out on just red, white, and blue everything. Do you remember how crazy it was?
You missed out on those bicentennial quarters. Remember the bicentennial quarter?
So do you remember how everything I guess that was like first grade, like between first and second grade for us, probably.
Yeah.
Everything. People went overboard on everything being Star Spangled this and that, and red, white, and blue this and that. Everything was, and there were reasons for that.
I remember my parents signed me up for fife lessons, and I've never used them since then.
Well, I wish that were true. I hope it was true.
I wanted them to call me Fife Dog, but apparently someone else had that.
Do you remember what? Can you know the famous picture with the two drummers and the guy with the fife and the head bandage? Do you remember what that? You know the picture I'm talking about, the painting.
Yeah, I can picture it in my mind, but it's called Fife and Drum Getting Down.
No, that it's called The Spirit of 76.
Spirit of 76. That's right. There was even a song called The Spirit of 76, I think.
Right. Well, so in 1976, of course, it refers to 1776. But in 1976, that spirit of 76 really became the mantra, and everything was about the spirit of 76. Now, just to put this in a larger context, that Watergate had just been a few years prior to that. In 1975 was the fall of Saigon. So there was a lot of kind of malaise about being an American.
Yeah.
And President Ford, the new president, wanted something of a kind of a reset of American patriotism. It was probably at an all-time low. So it was really important to him that we did it up big with the bicentennial. And that idea of the spirit of 76, they found that Thomas Jefferson wrote about the spirit of 76. And he talked about how, we were being ushered into a new era of freedom, and that we could, it would be not just for Americans, but all people in the world, free them from the burden of oppression and ignorance, and open their eyes to the right of mankind to overturn the power of tyrants, and equality over inequality. And you can hear the fife and drum in the background as I say this, right?
Yes, definitely.
And this whole idea about the founding fathers being almost like our Greek gods, that they're not just people anymore. They're people. They're gods that founded this country, and everything they said is how we have to be from now on, right? That spirit of 76. That was a really big deal in trying to kind of put this country right back on track after some pretty rough beginning of the 1970s. Do you remember the logo for the bicentennial? I think if I showed it to you, you would remember, but it was like a white 5-point star. And then on the outside of it was kind of a curved red, white, and blue star. And it was designed by the same person that designed the NASA logo. So a lot of those kind of curvy, it was kind of a curvy line, curvy star. The bicentennial officially began in on April 1st, 1975, with the American Freedom Train, which was a train that went on a 21-month tour of all 48 contiguous states. Just went from state to
Oh,
state,
wow.
celebrating the bicentennial. They had a big bicentennial parade on the 4th of July in Washington, D.C., with the Queen Elizabeth was there, which is kind of, I guess, funny.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were all into it too. Who do you think the Grand Marshal was of the? Now that's a big deal, right? And it wasn't a
Of the bicentennial
bicentennial
parade,
parade, 1976. It was not a politician. It was an.
I'm going to say Evil Knievel.
It's a good guess. It was Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Eh, Really
That's a
good
good one.
choice.
Yeah.
I would have thought it would be
Yeah.
like John Wayne or somebody, or maybe um, I might have guessed somebody like an actor, like
Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
yeah, or no, but he was a politician by then too.
Oh, he
Yeah,
was.
I think he
Okay.
was governor of California by then. Um, no, but Johnny Cash is kind of the perfect,
Yeah.
bridging
Yeah.
of the North and South, and kind of a
I guess Elvis would have been a good choice
sure,
too.
sure. Evil Knievel would
Except
actually been a good choice also.
did Elvis die in 76 or
70,
78?
77 or 78, yeah.
Okay, so he was still alive.
In November of 1976, they did a reenactment of the crossing of the Delaware,
Oh
with the
yeah.
frozen water and the whole thing. And they've done it every year since then. That was the first
I
time
did
they had
not know
done it,
that.
but every year in November you can go up there and watch those
Watch.
guys in a really cold and icy waters and frigid.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
They were tough back then. They were
Yeah.
definitely tougher.
The
We've talked about that in multiple episodes about how people in
Just
the
hardier, right? They were hardy.
well, I guess in 1776 for sure. I don't know about 1976.
1976 they were not. They're probably tougher than we are now, for sure.
You think we're getting less tough as a country
The
physically?
city of Philadelphia was really on display that whole year too. Obviously, that's where the country was founded. It was the host of the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball All-Star games, and the Final Four were in Philadelphia that year. The
Wow.
the Philadelphia ABA basketball team was named the 76ers to kind of go on the
Okay.
same theme. The Super Bowl that year, that was back before they had the halftime shows that we know now. It was done by a group called Up With People. Do you remember Up With People?
up with
There's a dead
people.
end for you. So if you're
Wow.
too young to remember, Up With People was this really cheesy kind of
Dance troupe,
dance
dance and
troupe
singing.
that would sing all these really uplifting, inspirational songs, but really corny and really saccharine, and just like you wouldn't be able to watch it today. It would be unwatchable today. But it was back then. We just assumed
Well,
that was entertainment.
yeah. I mean, everything travels in cycles, right? I actually think it would probably be very entertaining today because it's so awful
Yeah, maybe.
and so cheesy.
Their halftime show that year of the Super Bowl was called 200 Years and Just a Baby, a tribute to America's bicentennial.
Nice, nice.
Just a bit.
Just getting started,
getting
folks.
started.
We're just getting started.
Fire hydrants all over the United States were painted red, white, and blue that year.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember
Where
that.
you lived in your town, did you have a red, white, and blue fire hydrants?
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah. I can remember those. Yes.
You mentioned the quarters when we first started talking about this. They were separate quarters that were minted that were only 1976 quarters that had a special backing. Did you used to collect quarters?
Yeah, yeah. I actually have, I think all of the states or most of the state quarters. But for the bicentennial, I think I have a couple of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the backing was like the ribbon.
Yeah.
It wasn't the standard eagle.
Right. It was a little bit different. And I think one of them
Yeah.
I think there were a few, like 3 or 4. And I think one of them had the fife and drum guy.
Yep. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Schoolhouse Rock that year became History Rock, or they called it America Rock. That was the year that I'm Just a Bill came out. And,
Oh, yeah,
and the preamble, you've mentioned the preamble one on,
We the people, in order to form a more perfect
yeah, it
union,
was
establish justice in.
it was all about getting people, primarily kids our age, to be more interested in the country again. Remember, people our age weren't really part of Watergate or Vietnam War. We were just coming up when all that stuff. So
Or
really,
World War
the
II.
bicentennial was kind of the beginning of it all for us.
Yeah, we were very impressionable.
Rocky came out that year, and if you remember in Rocky, Apollo Creed, there's lots of
Big American
patriotic
flags.
themes where Rocky is, Apollo Creed is dressed like George Washington in one of the fights, and then
Yeah,
Uncle Sam and the other, both guys have very patriotic. Rocky has the red, white, and blue shorts that he wears.
yep.
The Magna Carta was on display in the Capitol for that year. There's only four copies of the Magna Carta. And if you were in
Wow.
DC that year, you could go look at that. They had the tall ships in New York Harbor. We lived in Michigan, and the license plates that year were red, with a little bit of blue and white stars. Beautiful. One of the best license plates I think I've ever seen.
If we were to rate license plates, yes, let's spend a little time.
Yeah.
We should do that one
Should
show,
we?
just a special, a Dirt Nap City
There's
special
been
where
some
we
good
rank
ones
all
and
the
there's been
license
some
plates.
bad ones. I mean, I
Yeah,
think I
yeah,
remember when we moved to Texas, it was just white with black letters.
yeah. That was lame. That was lame. And then they ended up putting the ones with the space shuttle on them. That was kind of cool.
Some license plates are so distracting that you can't even tell what state it's from. I liked it
True.
when you didn't have to read. Back when I used to do car trips as a kid and you couldn't buy all the specialty plates, I remember you could tell a license plate before you even read the state. You just knew by
By its
by the
color.
design, the color, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Remember Pennsylvania used to have those yellow ones.
yeah. And Arizona had the cactus on it.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it was a different time. License plate spotting was a big deal when you're an only child on a 24-hour car trip, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I mentioned next year. Next year is the 250th anniversary, and I suspect that we're going to have not exactly what we had in 1976, but it'll be a little more than we're getting for 249. First of all,
What do you
well,
call
that's
that?
what I
What
was
is
going to
the?
say. First of all, there's debate on what you call it. Now, you may remember in 1986, we had the 150th anniversary of Texas. Do you remember that? Do you remember what that was called?
Yeah, sesquicentennial.
Sesquicentennial. So I
Yeah.
think that this should be called the bisesquicentennial. Sesqua meaning half a hundred, bi meaning two. So bisesquicentennial is what I think you should call it. And some people are calling it that. But the other word for it is semiquincentennial. Semi
Oh,
meaning
those are
half,
both horrible.
semi
Those are both terrible
semiquincentennial.
names.
So those are your two choices:
How about
semiquincentennial
250? How about 250?
or bisesquicentennial. I like bisesquicentennial.
Let's just call it 250 a kicking ass.
Do you remember the sesquicentennial in Texas?
Oh
Do you
yeah.
remember that we went? I don't remember if you were on this trip, but a bunch of us went down to the old bank where they unveiled the largest Texas flag in the world. Do you remember this?
I
In
did not go on
Sugarland.
that trip.
It wasn't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a trip. I mean, it was in Sugarland. So we just drove over to it. And
Largest Texas flag in the world.
President Bush spoke.
Was he Governor Bush at the time?
No, it was it was Vice President Bush who
Okay.
would become the first
This
one.
was 86.
Yeah, yeah. It was Vice President Bush spoke. It was at the bank in Sugarland, the one that's the gold one. And they
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
world's largest Texas flag, which I got to be honest, thought would be bigger. I mean, it covered the whole bank. It was like a
Yeah.
6-story building, but
I mean, they're probably at bigger ones on college football
yeah,
fields now.
yeah, exactly.
Like the one that covers
Yeah,
DKR during the
yeah,
halftime show.
yeah. I was a little disappointed, but
Yeah.
that sesquicentennial was kind of burned in our brain. So I'm going with bisesquicentennial.
Bisesquicentennial. What'd you say the other option was?
Semiquincentennial.
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah.
Those are both
Bisesquicentennial.
good
Okay.
Scrabble words, though, probably, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it'll get you lots of points.
So next year we will have new coins. They will introduce
Okay.
new quarters, I believe, but a quarter isn't as worth as much as it used to be, and nobody carries quarters
Maybe
around.
they should do the penny, like the last hurrah of the penny. This would be the last penny we ever do.
Yeah, I think they are getting rid of the penny next
Yeah.
year. There's going to be big celebrations in Boston, Charleston, New York City, and Philly, but I don't see the level of nationwide celebrations that we had in 1976. The World Cup will be here next summer, so there will
Oh
be
yeah.
games in Boston area, Philly, New York City, maybe. But honestly, on the 4th of July, there's probably just going to be soccer played, which is a lot different than 1976.
Yeah, not even very
But
American.
check this out. This is what I want to run by you. They're going to bury a time capsule in Philadelphia, and
Ooh.
we've talked
Okay.
about time capsules in the Carl
Yeah, we
Sagan
have.
episode. Um, and they're going to bury a time capsule in Philadelphia that's to be opened on July 4th, 2276, the 500th
22.
anniversary of this nation of ours.
Okay.
500th anniversary. What would you put in a time capsule from 2026 that you think people in 2276 would be interested in?
I would put in a Dirt Nap City
Sure,
sticker,
of course.
100%. I would put in a um, hmm. I'd probably put in some of the um, cell phones from today,
Mm.
like a iPhone 15 or 17 or whatever it is at that
Can't put
time.
anything on it though. You have to treat everything like an artifact. I think part of the problem with the Sagan thing was they put in a record player and a record, and it's like that's technology, it's just dead technology.
Yeah, yeah, and then I'd probably put in a map of the world before all the coastal cities get flooded.
Mm. Mm.
Here's what it looked like. Sorry, suckers.
Well, unlike the Sagan one, where you're making something for aliens that don't even really read your language or anything, or maybe even
I mean, people 250 years in the future kind of are aliens.
you think so.
They're
But
think about us compared to people 250 years ago.
yeah, so you think,
We are strange creatures to them.
well, but they still,
Strange and soft.
but we can still read things that they wrote. We can
Mm,
understand it,
yeah,
right? It's
sort of.
not like another language. You can read it. I mean, I guess it's a little more formal, and their S's look like F's sometimes or whatever. But they write with quill pens. But for the most part, we can still read their language. Assuming that people are still speaking English in the U.S., I think you can, unlike the aliens, you can actually put things for them to read,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Say the word aliens again. You said it like Carl Sagan.
Aliens,
Alien.
yeah.
Aliens. What would you put in this time
I
capsule?
think you have to be careful not to go too pop culture-y. You have to. I
Yeah.
think you were on the right track with putting things like maps and money and
Yeah.
maybe some gold, and then descriptions of all these things. This is how we did this, and a Twinkie. You got to throw a Twinkie in
How
there.
about a booby trap? Put a booby trap in there and make it blow up when they open it. F you, future
That would
people.
be kind of on brand, wouldn't it? To what we were like in
Right.
in 2026.
We're seeing a glimpse. 250 years.
Yeah, I just think it's so interesting because you always think of these time capsules as being like 100 years later, but the 500th anniversary of the U.S. Man, I hope the U.S. is still going strong. Then I really hope. I hope it's. But there's a chance it might not even be the U.S. anymore, and
Might not.
um,
Might not be Earth
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, you're right. So maybe some
Might just be a some sort of future dinosaur ripping that thing open and trying to find that
more
Twinkie.
monkeys. Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, happy 4th of July to you and yours, and
Yes.
God bless America.
God bless America for 250 more years at least.
freedom's battle cry. Pickup trucks rumble down the old dirt lane, red, white, and blue pumping through our veins. Let's call it freedom's 250th Jubilee. Raise your beer and toast to liberty. From the mountains to the shining sea, we're the land of the bold and the home of the free. Fireworks burst like stars in the night. A nation's roar echoes burning bright. Crack open a cold one, cheers to the past. This is a legacy built to last. Let's call it freedom's 250th Jubilee. Raise your beer and toast to liberty. From the mountains to the shining sea, we're the land of the bold and the home of the free. Rev those engines, let the music play. Wave that flag like it's Independence Day. Together we stand, no one tears us apart. This is America's